Captain Sarah Mitchell's hands were still shaking slightly as she climbed out of her battle-damaged A-10 Warthog. The adrenaline from the mysterious encounter with the unmarked F-16s was beginning to wear off, replaced by a growing sense of unease about what awaited her in the debriefing room. Master Sergeant Williams approached her aircraft with his damage assessment team, whistling low as he examined the shrapnel holes and burn marks along the left engine nacelle. "Captain, I don't know how you kept this bird in the air," Williams said, running his hand along a particularly large hole in the aircraft's armor plating. "Looks like you took a proximity hit from a surface-to-air missile. The titanium bathtub around your cockpit probably saved your life." Sarah nodded absently, her attention focused on the two mysterious figures waiting near the operations building. The colonel with no unit patches stood with military bearing, but there was something about his clean uniform and soft hands that suggested he spent more time behind a desk than in a cockpit. The woman beside him wore an expensive dark suit and had the calculating eyes of someone accustomed to dealing in secrets. "Captain Mitchell," the colonel called out as Sarah approached. "I'm Colonel Anderson from Defense Intelligence Agency. This is Agent Patricia Wells from the Central Intelligence Agency. We need to discuss what happened during your mission today." Sarah felt her stomach drop. DIA and CIA involvement meant this situation was far more complex than a simple case of mistaken identity or crossed communications. She followed the two officials into a secure briefing room that had been hastily prepared with recording equipment and classified material warnings posted on the door. Agent Wells opened a thick folder and placed several photographs on the table. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she recognized the images, clear shots of the two F-16s that had intercepted her, taken from what appeared to be satellite or high-altitude reconnaissance platforms. "Captain Mitchell, we need you to tell us everything about your encounter with these aircraft," Agent Wells said in a voice that brooked no argument. "Every detail could be crucial to national security." Sarah recounted the entire engagement, from the initial intercept to the mysterious stand-down order from Overlord Control. As she spoke, she watched both officials take detailed notes, their expressions growing more grave with each detail. "You mentioned that you thought the tail number looked familiar," Colonel Anderson said. "Can you elaborate on that?" Sarah closed her eyes and concentrated, trying to recall the brief glimpse she had gotten of the F-16's tail markings. "It was partially obscured, but I think I saw the numbers 87-0301. That combination seemed familiar, but I couldn't place it during the engagement." Agent Wells and Colonel Anderson exchanged a look that sent chills down Sarah's spine. Agent Wells opened another folder and slid a single sheet of paper across the table. It was an aircraft accident report dated 3 years earlier. "F-16C tail number 87-0301, Agent Wells said quietly. "Lost during a classified test mission over the Nevada test range. The pilot, Major David Chen, was declared killed in action when the aircraft crashed into a remote area of the desert. The wreckage was never recovered due to the sensitive nature of the systems being tested." Sarah stared at the report in disbelief. "That's impossible. I saw that aircraft today. The pilot was very much alive." "That's what makes this situation so concerning," Colonel Anderson replied. "According to our records, that F-16 should be scattered across 50 square miles of Nevada desert. Yet you're telling us it intercepted your aircraft over Afghanistan, piloted by someone who knew current Air Force procedures and had access to classified communication frequencies." The implications began to sink in. If the aircraft was supposed to be destroyed, it was flying with unmarked paint and mysterious pilots. It suggested either a cover-up of the original incident or something far more sinister. Agent Wells leaned forward. "Captain Mitchell, what I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest levels. 3 years ago, Major Chen was part of a black operations unit testing advanced electronic warfare systems. The program was called Project Nightfall, and it involved modifying F-16s with experimental jamming and communication interception equipment. The official story was that Major Chen crashed during a routine test flight," Colonel Anderson continued. "But intelligence agencies suspected that he and several other pilots had been recruited by a foreign intelligence service. The crash was staged to allow them to disappear with the modified aircraft and sensitive technology." Sarah felt the room spinning slightly as the full scope of the situation became clear. You're telling me that I was intercepted by stolen U.S. Air Force aircraft flown by potential defectors? That's one possibility, Agent Wells replied. But there's another scenario that's even more troubling. We believe that Major Chen and his unit may have been operating under deep cover orders from a rogue element within our own intelligence community. Someone with enough authority to stage their deaths and keep them operational for unsanctioned missions. The revelation explained why the mysterious F-16s had operated with such confidence and knowledge of current procedures. If they were indeed U.S. pilots operating under classified orders, they would have access to legitimate codes and communication channels. The mission you witnessed today was likely an attempt to prevent you from observing something in that target area, Colonel Anderson said. Your presence interfered with a covert operation that someone wanted to keep completely off the books. Agent Wells pulled out another photograph, this one showing the mountain pass where Sarah had engaged the Taliban convoy. Satellite imagery from before your mission shows unusual activity in this area. We believe there was a planned meeting between Taliban leadership and unknown parties. Your air support mission may have disrupted an intelligence gathering operation. Sarah realized that her determination to complete her mission and support the Special Forces team had inadvertently blown a major covert operation. The mysterious F-16s hadn't been trying to harm her, they had been trying to preserve whatever intelligence coup was supposed to happen in that valley. What happens now? Sarah asked. Now, Captain Mitchell, you're going to help us track down these rogue aircraft and the people controlling them, Agent Wells replied. Your encounter today was the first confirmed sighting of the Nightfall aircraft in over 2 years. You may have provided us with the breakthrough we need to shut down this unauthorized operation. Colonel Anderson stood up and walked to a secure phone mounted on the wall. After a brief, coded conversation, he returned to the table with a grim expression. Captain, you're being temporarily assigned to a joint task force investigating this situation. Your flying skills and first-hand knowledge of the rogue aircraft make you invaluable to the operation. Over the following weeks, Sarah found herself immersed in a world of classified briefings, satellite reconnaissance, and electronic intelligence gathering. The investigation revealed a complex web of unauthorized operations spanning multiple countries and involving technology that was supposed to be destroyed years earlier. The breakthrough came when communication intercepts revealed that the rogue F-16s were operating from a hidden base in a remote area of Pakistan, just across the border from Afghanistan. The pilots, including the presumed dead Major Chen, had indeed been recruited by a private military contractor with ties to multiple intelligence agencies. Sarah's role in the final operation was both symbolic and practical. Flying a specially modified A-10 equipped with electronic warfare systems, she provided air support for the ground team that raided the secret base. When the rogue F-16s attempted to escape, Sarah found herself in a surreal aerial engagement with aircraft that were supposed to be American allies. The resolution came not through combat, but through communication. When Major Chen realized the scope of the investigation and the inevitable consequences of his actions, he chose to surrender rather than face a shooting war with his former colleagues. The stolen aircraft were recovered, the unauthorized operation was shut down, and the responsible parties faced court-martial proceedings. Months later, as Sarah returned to routine close air support missions, she often thought about the strange day when mysterious F-16s had tried to force her away from her duty. The incident had revealed the complex world of intelligence operations that existed parallel to conventional military missions, where nothing was quite what it seemed and even the good guys sometimes operated in shades of gray. The tail number 87-0301 was eventually reassigned to a new F-16, and Major Chen was sentenced to 20 years in military prison for his role in the unauthorized operation. Agent Wells sent Sarah a brief note thanking her for her role in resolving the situation, but most of the details remained classified far above Sarah's clearance level. The only lasting reminder of the incident was a small addition to Sarah's service record, a classified commendation for exceptional performance during a sensitive intelligence operation. It was recognition that very few people would ever understand, but Sarah knew that sometimes the most important missions were the ones that could never be fully explained. As she prepared for another routine patrol over the mountains of Afghanistan, Sarah reflected on the lesson she had learned that day. In the complex world of modern warfare, the most dangerous enemies sometimes wore friendly faces and flew familiar aircraft. Her decision to trust her instincts and complete her mission had not only saved the lives of the Special Forces team below, but had also helped uncover a threat that could have compromised national security for years to come. The Warthog continued to serve as her faithful mount through dozens of subsequent missions, its battle scars from that day serving as a permanent reminder that in warfare, as in life, things were rarely as simple as they first appeared. The two F-16 Fighting Falcons materialized out of the bright morning sun like hunting birds, their sleek profiles cutting through the thin mountain air with predatory grace. Captain Sarah Mitchell felt her heart rate spike as she watched the unknown aircraft close the distance to her damaged A-10. Every instinct screamed at her to break off her attack run and seek cover in the maze of valleys below, but the desperate radio calls from the Special Forces team kept her focused on the mission. "Hammer, this is Spectre 6, came the urgent voice of the ground team leader. "We're taking heavy fire from multiple positions. We need immediate air support or we're going to be overrun." Sarah's left engine was now trailing a visible stream of smoke, and her hydraulic systems were operating on backup power. The Warthog's legendary durability was the only thing keeping her airborne, but she knew her time was limited. Below, muzzle flashes continued to erupt from Taliban positions as the enemy fighters pressed their ambush. Unknown aircraft, Sarah broadcast on the emergency frequency, "This is U.S. Air Force Hammer 11. Identify yourself and state your intentions." The response came in clear, unaccented English that sent a chill down Sarah's spine. "Hammer 11, this is Falcon Lead. We are ordered to escort you out of this airspace immediately." Sarah's mind raced. The voice sounded American, but there were no US F-16 units assigned to this area of operations. The closest F-16 squadron was stationed 300 miles away in Qatar, and they would have been coordinated through the same command structure that had launched her mission. "Falcon Lead, I need to see your authentication codes," Sarah responded while continuing her attack run. "I have troops in contact and cannot break off at this time." "Hammer 11, you will comply immediately or we will be forced to take action." The threat was unmistakable, but Sarah's training had prepared her for exactly this type of situation. Even if these were somehow friendly aircraft operating under classified orders, abandoning the Special Forces team was not an option. She keyed her radio to Jake's frequency. "Viper, did you copy that exchange?" "Roger, Hammer. This whole situation stinks. I'm moving to intercept position." Jake's A-10 banked hard to place himself between Sarah's damaged aircraft and the approaching F-16s. The sight of the smaller Warthog attempting to shield its wounded partner would have been almost comical if the circumstances weren't so deadly serious. The A-10 was designed to survive in hostile airspace, but it was never intended to engage modern fighter aircraft in air-to-air combat. As Sarah lined up her cannon for another pass at the Taliban positions, one of the F-16s accelerated and moved into an attack position behind her aircraft. The Fighting Falcon's radar warning receiver was undoubtedly painting her Warthog with targeting information, preparing for a missile launch. "Hammer 11, this is your final warning. Break off your attack immediately." Sarah's response was to squeeze the trigger on her GAU-8 cannon, sending another burst of 30mm rounds into the enemy positions below. The distinctive BRRRT of the Warthog's gun echoed across the mountains as another Taliban technical vehicle exploded in a ball of flame. The lead F-16 pilot seemed to hesitate. Instead of launching a missile, he pulled alongside Sarah's damaged A-10, close enough that she could see into his cockpit. What she saw made no sense. The pilot was wearing a standard U.S. Air Force flight helmet and oxygen mask, but there were no visible unit patches or identification markings on his flight suit. More confusing was the F-16 itself. While it carried the basic gray paint scheme of U.S. Air Force aircraft, all identifying numbers and unit markings had been painted over or removed. The only marking visible was a tail number that seemed somehow familiar, though Sarah couldn't immediately place where she might have seen it before. "Falcon Lead, what unit are you with?" Sarah asked, hoping to get some clarification about the mysterious aircraft. "That information is classified, Hammer 11. You need to return to base immediately." Below them, the battle was reaching a critical point. The Special Forces team was completely pinned down, and Sarah could see Taliban fighters moving to flank their position. Without continued air support, the ground team would be overwhelmed within minutes. Sarah made a decision that would haunt her for years to come. Instead of complying with the unknown F-16s, she rolled into another attack dive, using her damaged aircraft to provide covering fire for the endangered soldiers below. The reaction was immediate. Both F-16s moved into attack positions, their radar warning tones filling Sarah's headset. But, instead of firing, something unexpected happened. All aircraft, this is Overlord Control," came a new voice on the emergency frequency. "Falcon Flight, you are ordered to disengage immediately and return to base. Hammer Flight, continue your mission." The lead F-16 pilot's response was filled with frustration. "Overlord, we have our orders. This operation is classified above your clearance level." "Falcon Lead, your orders have been superseded. Disengage now or face court-martial proceedings." For several long seconds, the radio remained silent except for the sounds of combat from below. Sarah used the pause to deliver another devastating attack run against the Taliban positions, her cannon fire walking across the enemy line with deadly precision. Finally, the F-16 leader spoke again. "Overlord Control, be advised that this mission involves national security interests beyond your understanding. We are withdrawing under protest." As quickly as they had appeared, the two mysterious F-16s pulled away from the engagement area and disappeared into the distance. Sarah watched them go with a mixture of relief and confusion. Who were those pilots, and why had they been ordered to stop her mission? "Hammer, this is Spectre 6, came the grateful voice of the Special Forces team leader. "Thanks to your air support, we've broken contact and are moving to extract. You saved our lives up there." Sarah acknowledged the transmission while nursing her damaged Warthog toward home. The left engine was now completely shut down, and she was flying on backup hydraulic systems. Every mile toward Kandahar airfield was a victory against the aircraft's failing systems. "Viper, form up on my right side," she called to Jake. "I may need an escort home." As Jake's A-10 pulled into formation beside her, Sarah couldn't stop thinking about the mysterious F-16s. The professional manner of the pilots, their advanced aircraft, and the classified nature of their mission suggested some kind of special operations unit. But what kind of mission would require forcing a close air support aircraft away from troops in contact? The flight back to base gave Sarah time to piece together the strange encounter. The F-16s had been clean of external markings, suggesting a black operations unit or some kind of testing program. Their willingness to threaten a U.S. Air Force pilot indicated authority from very high levels of command, yet they had ultimately been overruled by someone with even higher clearance. As Kandahar airfield came into view, Sarah noticed an unusual amount of activity on the flight line. Several unmarked vehicles were parked near the operations building, and she could see personnel in civilian clothes walking among the military staff. Whatever had happened during her mission, it had clearly attracted attention from beyond the normal chain of command. Sarah's damaged Warthog touched down hard on the runway, the aircraft's rugged landing gear absorbing the impact with characteristic resilience. As she taxied toward the parking area, she could see Master Sergeant Williams and his ground crew waiting to assess the battle damage. But, standing behind the maintenance personnel were two figures that made Sarah's blood run cold: a colonel she didn't recognize wearing a pristine uniform with no unit patches, and a woman in civilian clothes who radiated the unmistakable authority of a federal agent. As Sarah shut down her remaining engine and began her post-flight procedures, she realized that her encounter with the mysterious F-16s was far from over. The tail number she had glimpsed on the lead aircraft was finally coming back to her memory, and when she remembered where she had seen it before, everything about this mission would make terrifying sense. The morning sun cast long shadows across Kandahar airfield as Captain Sarah Mitchell performed her pre-flight inspection on the A-10 Thunderbolt II, affectionately known as the Warthog. The twin-engine attack aircraft sat heavy on the tarmac, its distinctive profile unmistakable among the sleeker jets scattered across the base. Sarah ran her gloved hand along the titanium armor plating that surrounded the cockpit, a feature that had saved countless pilots in situations exactly like the one she was about to face. At 28 years old, Sarah had already logged over 800 combat hours in the A-10, making her one of the most experienced close air support pilots in the squadron. Her call sign, Hammer, had been earned through her precise delivery of the Warthog's devastating 30mm GAU-8 cannon during countless ground support missions. The aircraft's primary mission was simple yet deadly: destroy enemy armor and provide close air support to ground troops. What made Sarah exceptional was her ability to thread the needle between danger and precision, delivering lethal force exactly where it was needed while avoiding collateral damage. The briefing that morning had been routine. Intelligence reports indicated Taliban forces had been moving heavy equipment through a mountain pass approximately 60 miles northeast of the base. Sarah's mission was straightforward: locate and neutralize any enemy vehicles or weapons caches while providing overwatch for a special forces team conducting reconnaissance in the area. Her wingman, Lieutenant Jake Viper Rodriguez, would be flying alongside her in a second A-10, ensuring they could cover each other during the mission. As Sarah climbed into the cockpit, she noticed the ground crew chief, Master Sergeant Williams, giving her aircraft one final inspection. Williams had been maintaining A-10s for over 15 years, and his attention to detail had kept dozens of pilots alive. He gave Sarah a thumbs up and shouted over the engine noise, "She's ready to hunt, Captain. Bring her home in one piece." The Warthog's twin General Electric TF-34 engines spooled up with their characteristic whine, a sound that had become synonymous with salvation for ground troops across multiple conflicts. Sarah ran through her final checks: flight controls responsive, weapons systems armed, communication equipment clear. The A-10 might not be the fastest or prettiest aircraft in the Air Force inventory, but it was built for one purpose: survival in the most hostile environments imaginable. Takeoff was smooth, and, within minutes, Sarah and Jake were cruising at 15,000 feet toward their target area. The landscape below was a patchwork of brown mountains and green valleys, deceptively peaceful from altitude. Sarah had learned not to trust the quiet moments. In Afghanistan, danger could materialize without warning. "Hammer, this is Viper," Jake's voice crackled through the radio. "I've got movement in Sector 7. Looks like a convoy of vehicles heading toward the pass." Sarah banked her aircraft toward Jake's position and activated her targeting pod. Through the high-resolution camera, she could see a line of pickup trucks and what appeared to be a modified technical vehicle with a heavy machine gun mounted in the bed. Intelligence had been correct: the Taliban was moving equipment through this route. "I count 6 vehicles," Sarah reported to their controller back at base. "Requesting permission to engage." The response came quickly: "Hammer Flight, you are cleared hot. Be advised, Spectre Team is approximately 2 clicks south of your target area. Maintain safe distance from friendly forces." Sarah rolled her A-10 into an attack dive, lining up the lead vehicle in her sights. The GAU-8 cannon was capable of firing 3,900 rounds per minute, each depleted uranium round designed to penetrate armor like tissue paper. As she squeezed the trigger, the familiar BRRRT sound filled the cockpit as the cannon unleashed its deadly payload. The first vehicle disintegrated in a cloud of smoke and debris. Sarah pulled up and came around for another pass while Jake engaged the rear of the convoy. What should have been a routine engagement suddenly became complicated when Sarah spotted muzzle flashes from multiple positions along the ridgeline. "Viper, we've got company," Sarah called out as tracer rounds began streaking past her canopy. "Looks like they had an ambush set up." The Taliban fighters had positioned themselves with shoulder-fired surface-to-air missiles, waiting for exactly this type of air support mission. Sarah's training kicked in as she began evasive maneuvers, deploying chaff and flares to confuse any heat-seeking missiles that might be tracking her aircraft. A proximity alarm screamed in her headset as a missile detonated close enough to her aircraft to rattle the armored cockpit. Sarah felt the Warthog shudder but remain airborne. The A-10's redundant flight control systems and armored design were proving their worth once again. "Hammer, I'm seeing sparks coming from your left engine," Jake reported with concern evident in his voice. Sarah glanced at her instrument panel and saw multiple warning lights illuminating. Engine temperature was climbing rapidly on the left side, and hydraulic pressure was dropping. The missile had done more damage than she initially realized. "Copy that, Viper. I'm going to try to stay in the fight a little longer. These guys on the ground need our help." Below them, the Special Forces team was now under direct fire from the Taliban positions. Without air support, they would be pinned down and potentially overrun. Sarah made a decision that would define not just this mission, but her entire military career. Despite her damaged aircraft, she rolled into another attack run, using her remaining engine and backup flight controls to maintain position. The Warthog's legendary toughness was being tested to its limits, but it continued to fly and fight. As she lined up for what might be her final attack pass, Sarah noticed something odd on her radar display. 2 fast-moving contacts were approaching from the south at high altitude. The signatures were consistent with F-16 fighting Falcons, but she hadn't been briefed about any additional air support for this mission. "Control, this is Hammer. I show 2 fast movers inbound to my location. Can you confirm friendlies?" The response was immediate and concerning. "Hammer, be advised, those contacts are not on our flight schedule. Unknown aircraft in your area." Sarah's blood ran cold. Unknown aircraft in a combat zone could mean only one thing: potential enemy fighters. But what enemy force in Afghanistan had access to advanced fighter aircraft? The Taliban certainly didn't operate F-16s, and the signatures were too clear to be anything else. As the unknown aircraft closed distance, Sarah prepared for the possibility that her damaged A-10 would need to defend itself against modern fighter jets. The Warthog was many things, but an air-to-air fighter was not one of them. Her best chance would be to use the mountains for cover and hope that Jake could provide some protection with his more maneuverable aircraft. "Viper, we may have bogeys inbound. Stay sharp and be ready to cover my 6." The radio crackled with Jake's response, "Roger, Hammer. I've got your back." As the mysterious F-16s approached weapons range, Sarah's damaged Warthog continued its attack run against the Taliban positions, unable to abandon the Special Forces team below. The next few minutes would determine whether her determination to complete the mission would cost her everything, and the identity of the unknown pilots would soon shock everyone involved in the operation.